All right, what is going on, everybody? We're back here on the Conquer Athlete YouTube page. And for this talk, I'm going to be talking about building mixed modal capacity. So this is a huge topic, and honestly, it's one of the most understood pieces in training for mixed modal athletes, in my opinion. A lot of people think capacity just means conditioning. They think it means, doing more work, longer workouts, so just trying to get better at suffering. But that's not really it, right? When I talk about mixed modal capacity, I'm talking about your ability to sustain and express different qualities across different demands without falling apart, right? So for some, this means strength, this means cyclical work, it means gymnastics, it means power output, transitions, pacing, monostructural work, and then a combination of everything. It means doing it all in a way where one piece doesn't completely destroy the next, right? And that's mixed modal capacity. It's more than just how fit are you. It's how well can you keep producing challenging demands under fatigue while still staying efficient and effective. And that's a very different conversation. So what mixed modal capacity really is, it's in mixed modal sports, we're really tested in one clean lane, right? We're not just lifting. We're not just running. We're not just rowing. We're not just doing gymnastics. We're blending it all together. So for athletes, it means, can we handle changes in contraction type? Can we handle changes in movement patterns? Can we handle changes in muscle group demands and respiratory demands, changes in space, and changes in skill requirement, all while still producing, right? And that's why strong athletes can and often do gas out. That's why a fit athlete can still fall apart once barbells or high skill movements enter the conversation. And that's why some athletes look amazing in isolated pieces, but can't put it all together in competition, right? They have individual qualities, but they don't have the capacity to express them together, right? I look at this like practice players in sports. We take the sport of basketball. It's someone who in shoot around never misses, looks amazing, but they've never trained the game. They've never trained different defensive positions and coming off screens and fade screens and having a hand in the face. And then when they get in the game and they feel pressure of the game itself or from athletes, they can't hit any shots, right? I kind of relate it to that. And this matters because in mixed modal sports, success is not about one standout trait. It's about having enough of everything. It's about being able to use it when it matters. We need strength, but we also need to recover from strength quickly. We need an engine, but we also need to use that engine without letting it wreck our movement quality. We need skill, but we also need to execute skill when breathing hard and under pressure. So when we build mixed modal capacity, what we're really doing is helping the athlete become more repeatable, more durable, and more adaptable. That's the key. Because in competition, it's not about a best one-off movement. Sure, that can help us in competition. But it's more so about how and what we can keep showing up with over and over again. Can we hold our percentages across multiple rounds? Can we recover while still moving? Can we manage transitions and be strategic and militant with them? Can we sound when fatigue sets in? And can we keep making good decisions once the workout starts asking harder questions? And that's fatigue and intensity. That's what mixed modal capacity gives us. The biggest mistake that people make is trying to build mixed modal capacity by just throwing random mixed workouts inside the training, inside that micro macro cycle. Yes, mixed modal sports requires mixed modal work. Of course it does. That's a basic question, but we can't look at it differently when we think about progressive overload, adaptation, and fatigue management. We need to stop exposing the same ceiling over and over again. So for me, building mixed modal capacity is not just about doing mixed modal work. It's about identifying what the athlete needs more of, then building those pieces in a way that eventually will transfer back into that mixed modal setting, into that sport setting. So sometimes that means building the aerobic system more directly. Sometimes that means improving local muscular endurance. Sometimes it means building strength endurance, power endurance. Sometimes it means cleaning up inefficiencies in gymnastics. Sometimes it means building a bigger base and building bigger muscles to create more strength and power. Sometimes it's simply improving pacing disciplines so you can stop burying themselves. We don't build true lasting mixed modal capacity by guessing. We build it by understanding what is breaking down and why. So when I look at the athletes, I'm always thinking about a few key layers. Number one, their aerobic foundation. This is the base. If an athlete can't recover well, they can't control their breathing, they can't sustain easier work, and they can't manage output over time, everything else is going to get harder. Their high intensity work suffers, their repeatability suffers, their recovery between sessions suffer, and the ability to express skill under fatigue will suffer. So a lot of mixed modal capacity starts with building the aerobic base. This can be with cyclical work, longer sustained work, easy mixed modal pieces, and it can be through interval work at the right thresholds. Strength endurance and power endurance is another massive one. A lot of athletes are strong and powerful, but for one output. Not a lot of athletes can hold a high percentage of the strength or power across repeatable bouts. Right? We want to talk about sustaining their work when fatigue builds, holding positions under fatigue, cycling weight without having energy leakage, and maintaining output once breathing gets challenged. We also think about, or I think about, local muscular endurance. Different movement patterns create different bottlenecks, right? So our breathing might feel great, but our shoulders or grip blow up, right? Our engine might feel solid, but we feel like we can't sustain anything throughout that trunk and midline for positions, and they fall apart, and we start leaking more energy. Our heart rate might be kind of normal or low, but our legs feel like they can't move anymore, right? So we need to understand local limiters for athletes as well, right? And sometimes mixed modal capacity is less about global fitness and more about the fact that one pattern is failing too early. When we think about skill under fatigue, this is another huge separator. Gymnastics under fatigue, barbell cycling under fatigue, transitions, movement precision, all under fatigue. And I look at pacing and decision making. This is the invisible part. This is like that final 10% of an athlete to make them great. Some athletes don't really lack capacity. They lack the ability to distribute it across the task or time demand that they're facing. They might go out too hard. They might surge when they shouldn't. They might panic. They might let the emotions get in control of them if they're going head to head. So let's look at how I actually do this with my athletes throughout the year, because this is where context matters, right? I don't think mixed modal capacity should look the same year round. Your off season should not look like your pre-comp phase. Your rebuilding phase should not look like a peak phase. Your accumulation phase should not look like your intensification phase. We think about first the off season and rebuilding phase, right? And what I'm trying to do here is expand the athlete's base and address missing pieces. That's key. That might mean more aerobic development, more unilateral strength, more structural strength, tissue tolerance, durability, technical work, local muscular endurance work in weak areas, more time spent in lower intensity zones to improve recovery and efficiency. This phase is not about constantly improving fitness. It's building the qualities that raise the ceiling for later. And then I move on to the mid-year developmental phase. So as we move forward, I start blending qualities more aggressively. When I say aggressively, I'm talking about adding limiters, adding fatigue through stress and volume. I want the athlete to start expressing the aerobic base with more threshold work, more strength and endurance work, more moderate to high effort mixed pieces, and more sessions where different qualities have to coexist. This is where I might use intervals, EMOMs, repeatable bouts, cyclical work paired with skill and strength demands, threshold sessions. There's lots of different methods to do here, but think about the principle of what you're trying to create with this mid-year developmental phase. And that's going to transition into the comp phase, right? And with the comp phase, we're thinking about making the capacity more specific to the required demands, right? Event style structure, transition efficiency, holding outputs under pressure, managing fatigue across multiple pieces, understanding pacing at high intensity, and making sure that athlete can express the qualities we built in the right format, right? We're no longer building the engine, we're teaching the athlete how to race with it, and that's key. So as a coach, we got to think, what are we really paying attention to? So when I'm building mixed modal capacity, I'm paying attention to a few things. First, where does the athlete break? Second, what quality is actually limiting the output? Third, what time of the year is it? And fourth, what is the cost of the session? And this matters a lot because we cannot build capacity well if every session crushes the athlete and they don't have the ability to recover and to adapt from it. So I care a lot about that session intent, the density, the interference, and the recovery. Good capacity work should challenge the athlete, but it also has to fit into that bigger, broader plan. So at the end of the day, building mixed modal capacity is about more than making athletes tired. It's about making them more capable of sustaining output, of repeating efforts, of handling different demands, and of expressing their fitness, their strength, their engine, their skill, their paces, their capacity. And for me, the process has to evolve throughout the year, from the base to the developmental, to the blend, to the competition, right? Nothing we do should ever be random. It shouldn't be hard for the sake of being hard. And it shouldn't be copying things year round. It's about identifying what matters, building it with purpose, and then teaching the athlete how to express it when it counts. That's mixed modal capacity. Hope you guys found this one informative. I'll see you on the next one.